Downtown is the front porch of our community.
You have here a place that is established. It is a place.
There's that rich history here. You know, every brick that's laid in all these buildings was laid by somebody.
It's really great because this Main Street is just alive.
Now on that second Friday, you can walk down Main Street and it's packed with people.
We have seen, especially the 300 block where we are now, explode.
You can walk here, you can ride your bike.
I think the core of Norman is downtown Norman.
It's uniquely us. It can't be duplicated anywhere else.
Downtown belongs to everyone.
To this day, downtown Norman, Oklahoma retains a small-town feel. This 13-block historic district includes mostly 1- and 2-story red brick buildings, reflecting the late 19th and early 20th century commercial styles found in cities throughout the state. Architectural details are simple, but reflect Norman's earliest expressions of community pride and faith in the future. In the late 1800s, the Santa Fe Railroad ran north-south through the middle of Oklahoma Territory, and Norman was lucky enough to be one of the stops. At first, there were simple wood buildings and a dirt path for a main street. A community began to arise that valued the arts, that knew how to make a dollar, and that, of course, loved football. Town leaders were optimistic. Citizens joined together for the good of the community, and downtown Main Street became the place where everyone gathered. Farmers came to the big city on Saturdays and found just about everything they needed. As the horse and wagon gave way to the motor car, downtown remained the place to fill up, to do business, and to celebrate. But after World War II, the shoppers began to drive to other commercial centers, and downtown began to decline. Today, downtown Norman is on the rise again, an economic and artistic work in progress. Downtown is regaining its traditional role as the city's center of commerce and is discovering a new identity as the Norman Arts District. This rebirth is fueled by the preservation of its historic buildings, by public investment in streetscape and infrastructure, and by private investment, which is creating new uses for downtown structures. The National Historic Preservation Act provides the framework for federal, state, and local governments to work together to identify and protect significant properties through the National Register of Historic Places. Since the 1970s, the City of Norman and the State Historic Preservation Office have partnered to obtain this special designation for Norman's downtown commercial district. In 1978, 2 blocks of East Main Street were designated a National Registered District, and in 2012, the district was expanded to roughly 13 blocks. Recognizing the historic and economic significance of downtown, the city wisely made investments in infrastructure and streetscape that made the district more inviting to pedestrians and more attractive for business.
Main Street really kind of started to take a new life when the City of Norman came up with basically a Main Street corridor plan, and they came up with a scheme that would work for public moving around downtown, and they started out by the redevelopment, putting in the light poles and the sidewalks and the landscape.
And so you're walking on something that is, first of all, it's safe, it's got nice aesthetic qualities, it's got landscaping, it has benches.
And they took out all of the meters, and that kind of started the activity down on Main Street.
Successful historic preservation efforts are locally initiated, led, and funded, and are based on strong public and private partnerships. Preservation of historic downtown buildings, such as the Sooner Theater, the Santa Fe Depot, and the IOOF and Magnolia buildings, has attracted an energetic and creative group of artists and entrepreneurs. Drawn by downtown's strong sense of place, they are pioneering new ways to reestablish downtown as a prime destination in Norman.
Art has become a very powerful economic engine in downtowns all over the country.
When I first became involved with the Performing Arts Studio and the Norman Historic District, the downtown area was in decline, had been for several years, but there were just some beginnings of people that were determining that these old buildings had some sort of attraction, and they were younger people or people with an artistic bent. So they were starting to come down here and make use of these spaces. And I think that sort of gave people the idea that maybe it wasn't a total loss.
Well, I used to work out of my home and chose downtown Norman because it was in the process of, I felt like, the tipping point of the revitalization. Just thought, this is a blank canvas.
Arts retailers and creative retail, they are often the risk takers, which is really ironic given that they often have the smallest budgets with which to start. But they're willing to risk it, and that often makes it more comfortable in the next wave of investment for more traditional retail to go, you know, maybe we'll come back to downtown.
I think arts in a city like Norman are vital. We actually started the Second Friday Circuit of Art. It's a collaboration between arts organizations, the Norman historical community, University of Oklahoma, and all the galleries that are in Norman. And we all decided that we would organize so that all of our openings would happen on this second Friday every month. But it caught on really fast because when the businesses started buying into the idea and they started keeping their doors open later, the restaurants saw the value of this.
It was fabulous. we had just a ton of people here. It was just really great energy. When there's a vibrant and thriving arts community, the whole community benefits from that. Young professionals want to move and be in business in a place where there is a thriving arts community, and that's why it's so important.
It just developed from the community. There was a community that was looking for a place to be, and this was the place they found.
Recognizing that downtown's historic character, central location, walkability, and early 20th century charm had real economic value, the City of Norman has successfully expanded the boundaries of the National Register District. This expansion will allow more property owners to take advantage of the key benefit of National Register listing, federal and state rehabilitation tax credits. Downtown includes 5 Norman landmarks which are individually listed on the National Register: the Santa Fe Train Depot, the Sooner Theater, Norman Public Schools Professional Center, formerly the Norman Post Office, the Norman Senior Citizen Center, formerly the Norman Public Library, the Cleveland County Courthouse. These and other downtown Norman buildings are being adapted for 21st century use as offices, retail, restaurants, living spaces, performing arts venues, art studios, and galleries. This will ensure that downtown continues to play a central role in the life of Norman.
You don't want to preserve it as a museum. It's not something to just come down and look at and gawk at and say, oh, this is nice, it's an old building. I mean, it's still in use. It's a different use than its original intent.
From a practical standpoint, I mean, repurposing it makes sense on so many levels. It creates jobs, it creates investment in our community, it creates historic preservation, it creates quality of life. You're not putting a bunch of materials in a landfill, so it's very green. There's no way that you can build a new building of the same quality than what you can by remodeling one that's already there.
But at the end of the day, you know, it creates a gorgeous space, and that's the rewarding part.
Downtown is more than a place to work or shop during the day. It's once again becoming a place to live.
We want to be able to live in a smaller home, close to where we work, on a more human scale.
I would love to see, and it's a personal opinion, is more artists that can live in their workspace, so you get to visit their studios. There are plenty of larger buildings that could accommodate that.
It was very common, even when this was all built, to live up and to work downstairs in your shop. And so when we did the Native Roots building at 132 West Main, it was one of those things where we went to the city and it had already kind of been engaged by the city, so the idea to put 4 apartments above that building and to have a store down below was really welcomed.
I think the more people that you have living in the downtown area, the more of a destination it becomes, the more foot traffic you have, and it's just, I mean, it's just fun to be down here.
Downtown has always been the heart of Norman. The community has worked together to maintain downtown's original character, assuring that historic buildings will be valued by the next generation.
It's a good place to bring your family. You can stroll down the sidewalk, get an organic soda, grab a great lunch, and have a good time with your family. And do a little shopping, hopefully.
We will be hopefully coming up with innovative projects, encouraging the other arts organizations to come up with innovative projects and programming and things like that that really bring attention to Norman as a true arts destination.
Preservation is not something that comes from others. Preservation comes from yourself. Preservation is what you and your neighbors do to save your community.
Change will occur, things happen, people will move, neighborhoods will change, but the essence of the community will be there. And that's what we're trying to preserve, is that essence that is Norman.